Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and you are listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Lucy Liebfried in Chicago. Are you ready for another Paranormal Friday night? We're so happy that you can join us tonight. You know, we welcome all of our regular listeners and those of you who have tuned in for the very first time. And if you have a question about the topic tonight, feel free to ask us in the chat room or call into the show at 661-244-9831. We'll try to get to you as soon as we can. Now, don't forget you can always send us an email with future topics that you'd like to see on the show, or if you just want to say hi. Our email address is paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. And last but not least, check us out on our Facebook show page and our YouTube channel for more information on the paranormal and on upcoming shows.
Well, last Friday, July 19th, Lucy, myself, and two other investigators investigated Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia, PA for almost 12 hours. It was amazing. 2 of those hours, we were live on the air with all of you to share the experience with us, and it was somewhat eventful on air and during the rest of the night. So tonight, we're going to talk about our experiences, what we felt, as well as reveal the evidence we captured. But before we do that, I want to bring on the other 2 investigators that we had with us that night, my sister and my brother-in-law, Joanne and Rocco. Hey, guys, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So, we wanted to include you both, obviously, because you were with us, and we wanted to get your take. I mean, people have heard Lucy and I talk forever about our investigations, but it's always good to hear folks who, and you guys have not normally done this, you know, many, many times before. Joanne and Rocco, how many times have you ever investigated a haunted location?
Well, okay, so me, myself, this would be the second time, and my husband, Rocco,
I think it's about 3 times I did it with Tony.
Okay. So fairly new,
Yeah.
new investigator to this whole thing. So while we talk about this investigation that we did at Fort Mifflin last week, we're going to include you guys in to share some of the experience that you guys had, because everybody's experiences, right, Lucy? Everybody's experiences are different whenever you go to a location.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to reveal some of the evidence that we caught, which we've caught, I'm trying to count it now, we've caught maybe about 5 EVPs. I'd say 3 of them, Lucy, if you would agree with me, they're pretty good. Almost Class A EVPs, right?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and then what I've also done was I've uploaded some of the audio of a couple of the areas where we investigated, like, for instance, in the Commandant's office building. I had actually dressed up as George Washington and read a letter that George Washington sent to the Congress in regards to Fort Mifflin and the big battle that happened at Fort Mifflin in 1777. And the reason for doing that was we wanted to sort of, you know, stir up the emotions, maybe stir up some conversation in the Commandant's office building. Now, from Lorraine, Lorraine Iber and Wayne who sort of run that place, who are the historians and who take care of Fort Mifflin, they gave us a little bit of a tour, and they gave us some background history and some of the history on some of the haunted sightings. And Lorraine had mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, did she mention anything that was experienced in the Commandant's building?
No. She really didn't mention much there. She did talk about the other buildings, but honestly, no, she didn't mention anything in the Commandant's.
So we figured, why not? We're there. I mean, the place is gorgeous. The buildings, the arsenal, the blacksmith shop, the casemates, and the barracks, the officers' quarters there, were really kept very well. I have to say that Wayne has really done a great job at keeping up the grounds. The lawn was perfectly manicured. I think that was in preparation for the actual Civil War reenactment they were going to do the next day after we had left. But the buildings itself are in pretty good shape. I'm pretty amazed at how well it's actually been kept up. But again, we're gonna go through all of that. But first, what I wanted to do, and I've done this before after we've gone to locations and we come on the air and talk about the evidence, what I like to do is sort of set the scene for everyone so that everyone understands pretty much what the surroundings, what the location was like, where we as investigators and how we enacted and how we conducted it, but also to the weather that was going on at the time of the investigation, because weather has a lot to do with an investigation. And so I wanted to give that first and then talk about some of the conditions and some of the variables that happen at a location that you want to sort of watch out for, because sometimes they can sway your perception of what could be a spirit communication or could be an apparition or some sort of sound or anything like that. So Lucy and I are going to talk about that. But first I wanted to get into the weather. So the average temperature during the entire night, now we were there July 19th, last Friday, July 19th. So the average temperature during the night was 84 degrees. That was the average. It was up and lower, excuse me, during the course of the 12 hours that we were there. But 84 degrees was the actual average temperature. The average humidity was very high. It was 65%. And I guess Joanne and Rocco, you guys can tell, I mean, it was sweltering hot that night, right?
Yes, it was.
Absolutely.
I think it was the worst night to investigate because the sweat was pouring down on us. It was too much.
Yeah, it was. It was a little too much. And the bugs were a little bit happy with us being there. But so the humidity was 65%. The average wind speed for that night was 10 miles per hour. That's a pretty, I wouldn't say calm evening. There wasn't a constant, it was not a constant wind speed of 10 miles per hour, but you did feel a little bit of a breeze. Now, I did notice at one point, and it sort of intrigued, I think, Joanne, you and I were sitting on the bench at one point outside the barracks, and we kept hearing a tapping noise down the far end of the barracks there when we were sitting on the bench. And when I went over to investigate what that noise was, it was actually one of the shutters that was moving because of the wind. So we sort of dismissed that idea that if anything was, spiritual or haunted or anything like that. It really wasn't. It was the wind. But it wasn't a constant wind breeze, or else we would not have been sweating as much as we did. And the moon phase, because a lot of people are into what the moon phase is during an investigation, and sometimes the moon phase itself actually contributes to the electrifying of, for lack of a better word, of the location itself. I mean, it was not a full moon. What they call it was a waxing gibbous. It was about 85% full moon that night, and the full moon was out. It was a clear night. There were no clouds, so we actually were able to get that moon light actually onto the grounds and helped us as we were traveling across. I don't know, and Rocco, I don't know if you're good at percepting what yardage and footage of that grounds was, and I don't think Wayne or Lorraine ever mentioned to us how big and how vast, how many acres of land that Fort Mifflin is, but it's you would say it's a pretty moderately good-sized land, right?
Oh, it looks like maybe a half acre or maybe a full acre of land if you combine everything, because I remember seeing another part of it. There was like an area where you can walk over a little bridge, and it extended out to somewhere else, but I'm not sure where that. Yeah, but you can say it's about an acre of land.
Lucy, when we first went to the location, what was your first initial response to it? Did you feel anything? Did you get anything? I made a joke earlier when we were chat room that, I pretty much lug everything around, all of the equipment, and you gave the excuse that pretty much you're trying to connect with the spirits. But honestly, was anything hitting you when you first walked onto the grounds? When we first walked through that sort of, I call it like walking the plank, but it was like walking over the moat and through that gateway into the grounds. Was anything coming to you as you were walking through?
Surprisingly, no. When I first walked in and just kind of took in the expanse of the area and just looking at how beautiful it was, I think I was more enthralled by just the actual fact of being there, thinking about, the history that had happened there, and to actually be walking on that ground. And that's surprising for me, because usually when we go to a location, I usually do pick up on something. But this time when I walked in, it was very, very calm, very quiet. It was almost like a sense of, okay, they were checking us out pretty much just like we were checking them out.
Well, exactly. And there's a reason why you probably were not receiving anything, and we're going to get into that a little bit more into the show as we reveal some of the EVP evidence, because some of the EVPs that we received sort of connotate the ideas that we were thinking, that they were not ready to communicate with us, that they were merely watching us as we were watching them. And some of the EVPs that we captured actually, you could say, indicate that. And it shows proof that that's what they were doing, that they were sort of laying low and watching us, which was surprising because usually when that happens, when we go to a location, a lot of times, in general, when you do go to a haunted location to investigate, sometimes the spirits right off the bat will be what I like to call shy or standoffish. They're a little bit aloof, and they want to check you out first. They don't want to right away, sometimes they do, but most of the times they want to see what's going on because you're basically walking into their home. What would you do if somebody walked into your home? You'd first check them out. You'd first, sort of inquire about why the hell are they here. And so I think that's what they were doing, but they kept it up the entire night. And it was pretty funny at what they were doing. So before we get into any of that stuff, though, again, I want to get into some of the conditions and the variables at the location. Like I mentioned before, it was a very clean area. Grounds were cut. There was air conditioning, which was, oh, my God, heaven sent, in 3 of the buildings. There were, and Lucy, you can talk about this for a little bit, there was those 2 cats that were on the grounds, right?
Yes. There is a cat that is called Albert the cat. And Lorraine described Albert as he's the one that runs Fort Mifflin. It's his domain. He's the one that watches over everything and checks everything out. And I found it really curious because I'm definitely allergic to cats. Albert, when I sat on the bench and was just checking everything out, Albert came right over, looked at me, and just started meowing, like talking, telling me things. And it could have been the catnip oil that I was using for the mosquitoes, but he's adorable. He's absolutely adorable. Now, during the night, Albert, just kind of watches over everything, just kind of follows around. He never really actually went into any of the locations like the barracks or anything like that. But during the night, he did bring along another cat, and I'm assuming that it was a female. And they just simply laid there, and watched us, kept an eye.
They were watching us. Yeah, they were watching us on the grounds right outside the officers' quarters, and I don't remember them ever really moving around that much. But yeah, you're right. They did not go into any of the locations, and we made sure I made sure to watch out to see if there was anything of that nature of any of these cats inside the locations while we were filming or while we were doing any sort of audio recording. Again, so that we can dismiss it as being the sounds of a cat as opposed to any sort of spirit communication.
One thing I did find really curious, watching the way that Albert and this other cat were acting, I didn't really see or sense any kind of reaction from them to any of the spirits that are on the ground.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's because they're so used to them that they know them, but I didn't see any kind of reaction. And usually sometimes you can tell when animals, when there's something around, there's definitely a reaction. Both Albert and this other cat were just very calm. There was like nothing that was catching their attention other than us.
Right. So, as I mentioned before, the mosquitoes were out in full force.
Oh, my God.
Looks like we came back with chicken pox. But also, too, what I noticed was lightning bugs. And if you're ever in an outdoor location investigating and you see lightning bugs, you have to take that into consideration when you do take pictures, because sometimes it's a false positive when those lightning bugs come up on there. So, again, you're outside, you're near water. Obviously, the fort itself is surrounded by a moat, and then also, too, the Delaware River is right on the outskirts of it. So you've got all this water mass around you, especially the moat area where it's got that still water, and you're going to have these bugs. You're going to have them coming around you, especially during the summertime, spring and summer. So if you're investigating during the winter, it may be better, but you'll still have some bugs in and around the grounds area. So watch out for that if you are going to be taking pictures on the grounds, on the grass grounds itself. Also, too, to watch out for, there's it's a docking area. I'm assuming it's a docking area for large ships and barges. And there was one actually right directly outside the fort area. I guess it's on the Delaware River. And it was pretty much stationed there almost the entire night. And the barge or the ship, whatever it was, we couldn't really see it. We could only see the very tip-top part of it where the red lights were flashing on its mast, I think. But the sounds of the engine and whatever else was going on that ship or that barge, you can hear it. You can also hear, remember, Lucy, we actually heard voices, male voices at one point. Now, I can't tell if those were spirit voices or if they were men from the ship, right?
Right. I mean, because you can hear them in the distance, and you really have to kind of listen to it, because when you first hear it, it does sound like a voice, a disembodied voice, but because the ship is so close and the way that the voices echo, if you listen to it, it definitely is sounds from the ship. So that's one thing that I kind of had to really sit and just make sure.
And
what
do you remember,
really was.
Lucy? Do you remember, Lucy, when we were all sitting on the bench too? We also we do know the story that there was also barking dogs, and when we were sitting on the bench, we kind of heard that, but we kind of thought it was maybe the ducks in the water. So that's another thing that maybe that's what they thought that they heard.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because there's so much wildlife around the area that it's kind of hard to tell what actually could be paranormal and what actually is just simply the wildlife that's around the location.
Right, and you can clearly hear the geese, but at one point, like Joanne was saying, that we were sitting on the bench and we heard the geese. At one point, they would give really sharp, short sounds that almost sounded like a dog barking, but as they continued, it clearly was the geese making these noises. And I know Lorraine had mentioned to us that there were claims of dogs barking. So I'm not dismissing anybody else's claims that dogs were barking and that's what they caught, but I take into consideration, and you should as well, that there are, like Lucy was saying, there is wildlife out there, and so you have to take that into consideration and do some testing if you are going to capture something like that as far as dog barking, to maybe listen a little bit more or a little bit longer in that area to see if there is possibly any wildlife, any geese that could be making that. Another form of wildlife that was there and that was very prominent, and basically we can hear most of it, it was in Casemate 5, which was the bullfrogs. You heard from the outside, I believe it was on the moat. And they gave off such loud noises, and you're going to hear it actually in some of these EVPs and audio clips that we have here. They were very loud. And so if you're not familiar with that sound, you may interpret it as paranormal, but it actually is not. It's a bullfrog. One of the other things that I wanted to point out, obviously, if you're not familiar with the area of Fort Mifflin, the Philadelphia International Airport is right next door. And so every 6 to 10 minutes, you get the airplanes flying very low, extremely low, and overhead over the ground. So, again, you have to take that into consideration. It may sort of overlay on top of maybe some of the EVPs. It becomes a nuisance in the very beginning, but after a while you kind of get used to that noise and it goes away. But again, you're recording it. If you've got your audio recorder, you're going to capture those sounds, and it may disguise some of the EVPs or some of the evidence that you may capture. So again, there's nothing that you can do with the airport, but
the noises and the lights from the airplanes, because we actually thought, when I was seeing in the beginning lights, I didn't know where it was coming from, and then I realized it was from the plane. So.
Right, I think that was when excuse me. I think that was when we were in Elizabeth's room. You can actually see the lights from that window where we were actually stationed the night where we were live on air. We had it right by that desk there by the window, and I did notice it because when I reviewed the DVR video that I had left in that room for the entire night, I kept seeing that light, and at first I didn't know what that was. And then I realized that it happened every 5 minutes, basically, and so I knew it was the airplanes coming by.
Well, just to give you an idea how close this airport is, you literally can hear the plane engines revving up on the runway. I mean, you feel that runway is like right outside the wall. That's how close it is.
Right. The entrance gates, the actual physical metal gates, right as you drive up into Fort Mifflin, those entrance gates were locked the entire night. So we knew that there was no trespassers. There were no physical people able to get into the location, again, to disguise or for us to have any sort of false positives. The area was locked, and there was nobody else in that location but us. In another thing I just wanted to point out, in casemate 11, there was a slight water drip because it's basically almost completely underground, that if there's any dew or if there's any recent rainfall on land, it's going to seep through the soil and then come through the stone bricks or the stone, whatever that casemate is made of, the ceiling part of it. You're going to have some water coming through. And so I did notice that, and I took that into consideration, again, so that I made sure that when I was listening back to the audio recordings, that I didn't interpret that as water dripping or any sounds like that could be interpreted as spirits making noises or something paranormal in that nature. And the last thing that I just wanted to mention to everybody again, and this is all just to sort of set you up before you listen to these EVPs and to listen to what we're going to talk about tonight as far as our investigation, that all four of us, Joanne, Rocco, Lucy, and I, all four of us were together the entire night. We never separated. We were never off on different locations, excuse me, or in different areas. And so that was key, and it was actually good for us for when we went back to review the audio and review the video so that we didn't misinterpret anything. If we knew we were all together and we all went to a location, you know that we were all there. We all walked into the room together. There wasn't going to be any slight shadows that you'd see casting over. If we were walking past, say, a window, it would cast inside the place. It would not happen because we would have all been walking into that location. So I pointed these out. I made sure I made note of all of that so that, again, when we went back to review the evidence or the video and the audio, I would have these in mind each and every time I may have heard something or saw something as I was reviewing. Lucy, did you want to add anything?
Well, Eric in the chat room just asked, did anything rattle or shake when the planes fly over the windows or the walls? Honestly, no. I didn't notice anything like that. Not at all. It's just the sound of the plane. All
right, so Joanne and Rocco, since you guys are sort of newbies. I mean, you've got a couple or a few investigations under your belt. When you guys first walked in there, like I asked Lucy, was there any perceptions that you had, or was there any feelings that you got when you walked in there, or were you pretty much open-minded and just sort of a blank slate and just willing to accept anything that came through, or were you feeling anything as far as maybe spirit connections? I don't know if you guys have that capacity or that feeling whenever you've gone into another location.
Well, for me, I could just say in the beginning, let me just point out that this is my second investigation. When I do these investigations, I really don't research. I don't, know anything about the place, because I kind of like to just be open-minded, kind of go through, listen to the tour first on that day, and then see what happens. Now, when I was there and Lorraine started the tour, I was actually getting very excited because she was mentioning all the time about full-body apparitions, and everybody who went there would see at least a tour guide and thought it was a real tour guide and there was a ghost. So I was really gung-ho and thinking, okay, I'm going to walk out of here and really see something, or at least mainly hear something. But I was just telling Lucy when I was with her most of the night, I was just saying that I didn't feel like I was being followed. I didn't feel like I had something over me. We didn't really hear anything. Nothing was, the only thing, like in the beginning, Rocco can mention after I'm done talking, something happened to him. But, I didn't feel like I was scared, What else can I say? I mean, it was a heroic site, so I felt like it was more of a serene area. Even though it was hot and everything, I really felt comfortable. I felt comfortable outside when we would take the breaks, to sit on the bench, and we would just take the scenery in, see the full moon. I mean, well, not the full moon, but we would see the moon, how beautiful it was. And I didn't feel like, oh, my God, I was, really nervous, which usually that's what I would be. Because, like I said, I would go in and not know anything about it. I get very excited. All I do is I want to see something. And nothing really happened. But obviously, since you're saying that a lot of things you found more on tape or on the EVPs more, so I guess they didn't, like you're saying, they didn't want to connect with us. They didn't want to communicate that way, where we could hear their voices. So,
right.
But no, I mean, like I said, I didn't see anything or hear anything that night. But
Rocco, what did you think, Rocco?
Well, as we investigated 3 other places, me, myself, and you. Me, I basically get prepared as I set myself up for the unexpected. So I'm basically ready. Fort Mifflin, to me, was a great experience because it's a part of history. And like Joanne said, the place was very calm. And, I felt some stuff, but as the night continued, it was more like they didn't want to answer our questions, I guess, because like you said earlier, they don't right away. They want to search. They want to look at what's happening first before they respond. It's more like a safety feature for them. To make sure everything is...
But overall, you had a good feeling. That you didn't feel anything negative. You didn't feel anything malevolent or malicious or evil or anything like that, right?
No, there was none of that. It was more all good vibes. There was no vicious stuff going on there that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I wish we would have just got more stuff, like Lorraine was saying, about the tour guide and the other guys dressed up as back then in costumes. But every place is different.
Right. Just hearing you, Rocco, and hearing what Joanne was saying, Lucy, isn't it sort of like, I don't want to say this, and this is not bad, but it's sort of typical that people who are folks who are new into it really hope that they want to see something.
Yeah.
Really hope and wish that they want to see something happen right there so they can believe. But we've said this for so many times that it doesn't happen all the time. That's the most boring part of paranormal investigating, is spending so many hours in a place and you may only see or interact with something that happens for maybe 2 seconds out of the entire night live right there in front of you. But most of the time you do capture stuff that you don't normally hear with your naked ear or see with your naked eye. So it shouldn't discourage you. And so and I'm actually kind of happy that this happened, that, Joy and Rocco, you guys didn't experience anything really huge during the night other than, and we'll talk about it, other than the incident that happened with Rocco in the blacksmith shop. But to understand that when you go back and review the audio recordings or anything else, that you do get some stuff, and you find out the reasons why. And we found out the reason why they weren't interacting with us, and we'll talk about it. But do you think I'm right, Lucy? I'm not meaning that as condescending to you guys, Joanne.
No,
but
no, not at all. And we've said it
before. No,
I
mean, I got the feeling when I didn't steal anything, I just said, I just can't wait for the next one. I mean, it didn't make me get discouraged and say I just don't want to do this again. I mean, I actually can't wait to go to another investigation place and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
No, we've said it before. You can. Not every location's going to be on every night. The spirits don't perform on command. I do want to mention though, during the tour when Lorraine was talking to us and we were sitting on the bench, and remember when we're sitting and we're looking across at the blacksmith shop and the armory back there, there were little things. I mean, I really got the feeling that the spirits there were definitely checking us out. And there were certain things, I guess the residual stuff was still happening, because I remember as Lorraine is talking, I'm seeing movement towards the back wall in back of the blacksmith shop. It was almost like I could see out of the corner of my eye movement going from one end to the other, kind of going around the back of the powder casing. And that was one of the first things I noticed, and we were all sitting there, we're all looking, and that's when Wayne had told us about that wall, and where the wall actually was made of logs at one time. The British had a ship that was docked on the outside, had shot grenades over, and actually a lot of the soldiers that were there had gotten killed in that area. So that was one of the first things that I noticed, but there wasn't a whole lot that was obvious at first.
Right. All right, so why don't we get into the investigation night? And we'll go step by step, and pretty much we're going to go into the order of where we investigated. So the first area that we went into, which was live on air, was the blacksmith shop. And if you were fortunate enough to listen to the live show last Friday, you sort of got a glimpse or you were experiencing something that happened in the blacksmith shop to actually Rocco. And when we were live on the air, there was an incident that happened where there was this metal plate of some sort. I think it was maybe 3 inches by, I'd say, maybe 8 or 9 inches long. It could have been maybe 1/4 inches thick. And Rocco, why don't you tell us what was going on right before, during, and then right after that happened to you?
Well, in the beginning, I started walking around the room to see if we would get anything on the meter. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was jumping, but nothing steady, nothing crazy. But I kept circling around his tool area, where he kept his tool, or it looked some type of threader or some sort. So I was just basically walking around the whole room. Didn't pick anything up, anything crazy. And then as I was walking back towards the door for the last time, I walked right by where I usually walk by. And after I took about 3-4 steps past this, I guess it looked like a column of some sort, or a shelf. This, obviously everybody was there. It's like the metal plate was like either pushed off the shelf, or maybe it was a sign saying that, stay away from my area.
Mhm.
So it was almost like thrown at me. But like,
did it hit your leg? Did it actually hit your leg, or did it hit the floor?
No, but it was like when I heard it hit the ground, it was towards me.
Right.
If you push something, it usually goes away from you. This actually was pushed towards me. I took it upon where he was trying to tell me stay away from my stuff. You're getting too close. That's how I took it.
When that happened live on air, we all reacted, and we, right away went over to the area, what you were talking about, which I think it was towards the back of the area. I think it's where he had his fire pit. And we're talking about Jacob, the blacksmith, which is a common claim of this gentleman, Jacob, who I believe used to run the blacksmith shop there, and who has been seen visually in a dark brown leather apron, tall gentleman, with a distinguishable walk to himself, as people were describing him. And so I'm not sure if Lorraine had mentioned if he was a mad spirit, or an angry spirit, or anything like that. But when this happened, we all went over to the area. We saw this metal plate on the floor. Everybody heard it live on the air. And what was funny, Lucy, what was on this metal plate?
It was scratched. It was actually scratched onto the metal plate that was hi there or hello there. It was hi there.
It actually had, it was, because I kept rubbing it, and I believe it was chalk, and it had the letters H and an I. And I have a picture of it, which I'm going to put up on Facebook to show everyone what it actually looked like. I should have done that already.
Yeah, it looked like chalk, but you were rubbing it off and it wouldn't come off, so it definitely stayed on the metal.
No, it did come off. It actually did come off. I didn't want to do it too much, and so I started to rub the bottom of the H area, and it was starting to rub off. That's how I knew it was chalk. And so,
really?
I didn't rub it anymore because I didn't want it to disappear. I wanted us to take a picture of it. And so, that was that. I don't know. I know when we walked in there prior to, when I first walked in there, because that's when I set up the laptop to do the live show, I brought that in there and the MiFi so that we can get signal in that room. I had walked around the room as well because I had put my video camera right next to the area where Rocco was, where Rocco had moved away when that thing hit. I wasn't able to capture it because my camera was facing towards us, towards the front of the door area. It was not faced towards the back where that fire pit was, where this incident happened. So I wasn't able to actually get it on camera. I wish I did, but it wasn't in the same direction. But when I walked back there, I would have stepped on this thing. I know I would have stepped on this thing because I kept bumping into things the entire night. I actually scratched my head, the top of my head, on those things that were hanging from the ceiling at one point when we were setting up. So I know that I'm pretty sure that it was not on the floor. Unfortunately, we didn't have any pictures of the room prior to this incident. So, again, I can't prove it. I can't say that it definitely did happen. Rocco's the only one that had the experience, so he only knows the truth. And so I'm going to chalk it up as a good piece of experience. I'm not sure about evidence, but it's something that happened that night that I can't explain because I wasn't near it.
Well, what I could say was by knowing that type of experience, like that, however that happened, you would think that you would debunk that definitely by saying, okay, he stepped on something or he pushed something in a cell. But the way in that noise that metal fell, it was very hard and it hit the bottom very hard. Like you really heard that type of thrush to the floor. So in that type of a way, he didn't knock it down. He didn't do anything because there was nothing behind him that we were looking around the whole area or behind him, seeing if there was a shelf, seeing if there was I don't know what you call that type of tool that was on the floor, but if that metal was on there, it wouldn't have stayed on there. And there was nothing that piece of metal would have been anywhere. And even if it was stayed on the floor and he stepped on it, you would think that would be a way of debunking it. But like I said, we stepped on it and we tried to tried to get that same noise, but it wasn't. When we stepped on it, it wasn't giving you that loud metal thrush like it just fell on the floor. You know, when we stepped on it. So I was very shocked. Like I said, I did not think he pushed it or it just fell by his back or something, because he was going around the room. But with that type of a noise, it fell from somewhere, and we didn't know where, because there was nothing surrounding him that would have held that piece of metal anywhere. And like I said, if it was on the floor, like I said, the way he stepped on it would have never made the same noise.
I have the actual audio from that incident. So it's a 2-minute audio clip of what we were just talking about, in case no one was able to catch the live show and really understand what we're talking about. Here's a 2-minute audio clip of that incident. It's about 2 minutes long, and it's captured from right before the incident happened, during it, and then a little bit afterwards. So take a listen to this.
Okay. Does anybody in chat have any questions that they want us to ask? Is there anything that you may be feeling, or
No.
Put the flashlight over here.
You sure?
Is this it?
I don't know. I just walked by there.
You were there. You must have touched it. It was on the floor.
Where was it?
Probably on the floor. Probably just stepped on it.
I didn't step on it. I would have felt it on
There's
my foot.
a metal piece.
Yeah,
I don't know, this is about...
No, that's
did you feel it? Did you feel
Where
it? 8 inches by 3 inches?
I walked.
Where?
From
Put
anywhere.
the flashlight on this.
You didn't step on it?
No.
That's short. Yeah.
And as you can hear already, Joanne is trying to find out if Rocco actually stepped on it right away to debunk it or dismiss it. But to me, yeah, Joanne, like what you were saying, that sound doesn't sound like somebody tripping over it.
Off.
Right. It could have been, even if Rocco did trip over it, I have him on video, because you can see him as he's coming right past my camera right when this happens. You don't see him almost stumble or almost trip or anything like that. You don't see his mannerism, his body movement doing that. He was just walking away, and I think he moved away and turned around to look in the direction of where this thing was coming from. So it to me, just from that video, which I can actually put up on our Facebook page. I'm going to do that too, and I'm going to do that with all the EVPs that you're going to hear tonight, so that you can actually hear it better, because Blog Talk Radio audio is so horrible. So when you see the video, you'll notice that he doesn't trip over anything. So it could conclude that it wasn't on the floor already, and that wasn't him tripping over it, flipping up this metal piece to actually fall back on the floor. But it does sound like it actually is hitting the ground, falling down onto it, and settling as it's making that clinking noise.
What I got from it, it definitely was thrown at him. I mean, the sound of it, we tried everything to debunk what this was. And he had, Rocco, if I remember, both of your hands were full. You had something in both hands?
Yeah, I had a flashlight in one hand so I don't trip over anything, and the other one I had the K2 meter in my other hand. So, I mean, and then, like I said, I've heard metal drop plenty of times, and I've stepped on metal plenty of times. There's a big difference in sound. That definitely fell from some type of height. So, like Lucy was saying, and like I was saying earlier, I felt that was thrown towards my direction as I passed it. Because I was already about maybe a foot away from it, and then as I walked in front of the camera, that's when it hit the floor. That's when I jumped, and I didn't know what it was.
And going back to something that Lorraine had said during the tour when she was talking about the blacksmith shop, Jacob has been known to open and close that door. So what I'm getting from this is that he is very, very aware that this is his domain. This is his location. So the fact that Rocco was walking around back there by his work area, to me, the first impression that I got was, you got too close to his stuff. You got too close to his work area, and he was simply letting you know that, you need to back off.
All right, we've got a bunch of things that we want to get through, so I want to make sure, because of timing, that we get through them as quickly but as thoroughly and keeping with the quality of things as efficiently as we can. So if nobody else wants to talk about that, I want to move on to Elizabeth's room. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so after the blacksmith shop, during the live investigation that we did on air last week, we actually walked across the grounds to try to go to casemate 11 and do a live investigation there on air. But unfortunately, because it is underground, we lost complete signal with the MiFi and with the cell phone. So we had to turn around and make a quick decision to go and do the rest of the investigation on air in Elizabeth's room. Well, what has been claimed and what has been known notoriously as Elizabeth's room. But, Lucy, did you want to just briefly talk about why it's really not Elizabeth's room?
It's not Elizabeth's room because at the time that Elizabeth lived on the location, the actual second floor of this building didn't even exist. Elizabeth and her family actually lived in a shack on site, which is located, I believe, where the powder casing is. The
arsenal is. Not the arsenal.
Where the arsenal.
No, not the arsenal. That area in the back. You just mentioned it before.
Right in front of the wall. So
the armory.
The armory. So Elizabeth and her family, they actually lived on site. This second floor up here was built later on, almost I believe in the 1800s, and it actually does not have anything to do with Elizabeth. Now, people do report hearing sounds of a child. They report hearing screaming, which we also learned that the screaming woman very possibly can be the cry of a bird as opposed to a scream. Now, Lorraine and Wayne did say that they have heard it and that they they do say that it's a woman. But this room upstairs, there's definitely something in there, but I'm going to say it's not Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when we were in the room during the live show, to be honest, nothing really happened at the time. Nothing was going on during the live on-air show. I actually moved a little Victorian standing doll in the middle of the room and asked for if there were any children, because those were some of the claims. If they would want to take the doll and knock it over. You offered your Native American bracelet, correct?
Mm-hmm. I left a bracelet there. And I do want to say, though, in this room, even though there was nothing physically, that we heard or saw, I had equipment failure. My digital recorder at one point, I left it on the table next to the computer, had shut itself off. I got 7 seconds of recording, and then all of a sudden it shut off. I also had 4 cameras with me. 3 of the cameras that night did not work. As soon as I got back to the hotel and checked everything, they started working.
Right. There was also the feeling of in that small, in what you call Elizabeth's room, there's a small offset room there, probably was maybe a bedroom, a little tiny bedroom with a fireplace. There was that feeling that you and I think Rocco had of dizziness and, energy being drained and all of that going on in that space. Sort of losing your balance a little bit as you were walking in that area. We tried to do a EVP session. We all sat on the floor in a circle and tried to do an EVP session in that room. We didn't get anything, but we did get 2 really good EVPs from this area. Now, I had a bunch of audio recorders that I laid around the campus of Fort Mifflin. I left one in the supposed Elizabeth's room. I left one in casemate 11, and then at some point I left one in the blacksmith's shop, but then took that and used that as a roaming audio recorder and used that in casemate 5, in the commandant's room, and in the arsenal. But I did have the audio recorder in Elizabeth's room for pretty much 12 hours that night. And I'm not sure exactly, this was sort of maybe 3 hours into when I left the recorders, and I actually left all the recorders around the 9 p.m. time. We went on air at 10 p.m. This was done at around maybe 9:30. It was, I know these 2 EVPs were recorded after we did the show and finished the show. I think we may have been in casemate 11 because that's where we went to right after the show ended. So this must have happened while we were in casemate 11. So I've got 2 really good EVPs. You are going to hear these very clear. The first one, and here is when I started to get these EVPs, this is when it started to sink in that they are hanging on the sides and watching us, because the language and the words and what they were saying in these 2 EVPs connotates and indicates to the fact that they were watching us. So the first one's pretty funny. It is a male voice, and this was on my audio recorder that was left in Elizabeth's room. So the way that I can interpret the distance from where this voice is coming from, it may have been either, I know it's not near the recorder. I'm not sure if it was in that small room that we were just talking about, that people felt dizziness, or if it was on the landing right outside of the room itself, because there's that long landing, that second floor landing that you had there as well. So I'm going to play this audio clip. The audio clip is of a male spirit, and I'm just trying to look for it here. Here we go. It is a male spirit, and you can clearly hear him say, "Look," and then he starts to laugh. It's 15 seconds long. Take a listen. All right, I'm going to play it one more time. Now, when I heard that, to me what I'm visioning is someone standing possibly on that landing, on that second floor landing, watching us, pointing and saying, "Look," and laughing at us, either as we're crossing the grounds, as we're coming back, or whatever it is. Joanne, Rocco, what did you think of that? Did you hear it?
Yes, I did. But, Anthony, you also forgot to mention who else was watching us in that room. Do you remember?
In Elizabeth's room?
In the small room that we all got dizzy in.
Oh, there's the deer that was outside on the grounds.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, he was. The deer was just staring at us through the window, but there were deer that we had seen outside over there.
But what did you guys think of that EVP clip?
I did hear it. I didn't hear too well where he said, "Look," but I heard the laugh. I heard the laughing part.
Okay.
So, yes, I mean, it's the same. I could take it as that, like you're saying, like we were being watched and, like, they were just seeing what we were going to go through the whole night, since he was, like, kind of laughing and thinking that it was a joke, you know?
Lucy, what did you think of that?
You know what? I heard this EVP. You played it for me after. Remember at one point, I turned to you and I said, "I've got the feeling that they're amused with us."
Yeah.
And when I heard the EVP, that just proved it to me, that they were sitting there, they were watching, and they were having a good time watching what we were doing.
Okay. This second EVP that I got is from, again, the same area. It almost feels as though it may be even the same distance. And, again, it's a male voice. And this male voice, and, again, this is what is sinking into me, that they are, or he is, this one spirit, is watching us. Because the voice that comes over is a male voice that says, they're loving that. And I'm assuming he's talking about us. This is a EVP clip that is 8 seconds long, and you're going to hear a male voice say, they're loving that. I'm going to play it one more time. I hope you all in chat and who are listening to this right now can actually hear it. Again, I'm going to put this on our Facebook page so that you can clearly hear it better, because Blog Talk audio is horrible. But again, Lucy, what did you think of that?
I think it's awesome. And you know what? I'm assuming that he's referring to the fact, Joanne, remember when we first went into that small room, the floor felt like it was moving? Both of us had said that out loud. So I'm assuming that whoever this was, and it's definitely. But again,
wait, Lucy, don't misinterpret it. These EVP clips were not taken while we were there. They're were all taken. They're afterwards. So we're not in the room. We're not in that area. These EVPs were recorded because I listened to the whole thing, and so we're not in that location. And the time frame of it, we were not there in that room. So these were all taken while we were away, and like I was saying before, we may have been in Casemate 11 or the Arsenal at this point during the night when this was captured. So, again, they may have been watching us, or he may have been watching us as we were walking across the grounds.
It's definitely got a southern accent. That's one thing that I pick up from it. I mean, I think it's amazing. I'm so happy with it.
It was very loud. You could hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to move on to Casemate 11. And in Casemate 11, we were doing, and it was, again, all four of us in there. It was a pretty tight space. All of us were doing EVP sessions in there. We were trying to talk to William Howe, who was sort of wrongly accused of murder and desertion of the Army, and we were trying to talk to him. And I sort of tried to provoke a little bit to get him to start to talk to us, because after a while when we were in there, again, we weren't hearing anything. Nothing was really going on. And I tried to provoke a little bit and say, you know what, I may not believe in the story that you're innocent, William Howe. I don't believe maybe that you didn't do these things. You didn't murder that gentleman, that officer. That you didn't accidentally do that you actually did murder him, and that you did desert the Army. But again, we didn't get anything from him live on there at all. But what I do want to say, and I love this EVP to death. I love this one, no pun intended with that. But I love this EVP because when we were setting everything up, and Rocco and I had done the DVR system and set that all up, the last thing that I did before we went on air was I placed all the audio recorders in the rooms. I did one in Elizabeth's, one in the Blacksmith, and one in Casemate 11, and I left Casemate 11 there the entire night, the 12 hours, 10, 12 hours, however long we were there. This EVP that I'm going to play for you, it is basically 8 seconds after I turned on the recorder, or maybe it's been 10 seconds, you'll hear me say, what I naturally do when I turn on a recorder and leave it in a location, my name and where I'm leaving it at. So you're going to hear me say that, and then you're going to hear my footsteps walk away. As you hear my footsteps, maybe, and I think I may be on halfway up the outside stone steps, you're going to hear two voices talking to each other. And I can't tell, maybe you guys can help, but I can't tell if it's a male and female or two males with sort of a higher pitch or a higher tone. One of them has sort of a higher tone to their voice itself. But Lucy, and I think we should congratulate each other, because this is the first EVP that we've ever caught where we've caught two spirits talking to each other. We've never had that happen at any location, correct?
Never. When I heard this thing, I was so amazed. I mean, in all the locations we've had EVPs, with different voices, but this is the first time that I can remember, that I know for a fact, that we've gotten an actual exchange of dialogue between two spirits.
Right. So what I did was, and this is probably around at the 9 o'clock hour, again, because this is when I was putting out all the audio recorders and locations, you'll hear me announce my name and where I'm leaving this recorder, and you're going to hear my footsteps. In the middle of the footsteps, you're going to hear two faint voices talking to each other. One says, "Why is he here?" And the other spirit says, "I don't know." So let me find it. And it is 24 seconds long, so take a listen.
Okay, this is Anthony at Fort Mifflin, and I'm putting this recorder in casemate 11.
I'm going to play it one more time. It's very faint. It's towards the very end of it, and you're going to hear two voices. One says, "Why is he here?" and the other says, "I don't know." I'm going to play it again.
Okay, this is Anthony at Fort Mifflin, and I'm putting this recorder in casemate 11.
Again, I hope all of you out there who are listening right now were able to hear that. Again, I'm going to post this on our Facebook show page, but anybody who wants to chime in, Joanne, Rocco, Lucy?
I think it's amazing. I am so happy with this one.
It is very faint. It is a very faint voice, but I'm excited about it because two reasons. One, because we've never caught two spirits talking to each other like that. Therefore, you know that it's intelligent. You know that they are visually seeing me in that location. And two, the reason why I like it, the second reason why I like it is because they're indicating me. They see me. I think this is almost the first real true EVP that I've captured that they've noticed me specifically. I know in other locations that we've gone to, they've noticed us together. They've noticed a presence in there of us, but specifically, nothing has sort of indicated to me personally. And so I love this EVP. And again, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. I have not cleaned up anything as horrible as these sound. I have not cleaned up any of these audio recordings. The only thing that I have done was jacked up the volume right where you hear the voices. I mean, obviously, I came back from Philadelphia, from Fort Mifflin on Sunday, and then basically had to go right back to work. So I was only able to try and get to all of these recordings as best as I could, on my own time after work, and then put them together. So I haven't been able to actually try and clean it or take away any of the other noises or amp up any of the very faint noises. But I think it's really good. I think it's a really good EVP. I'm really proud of it. Joanne, Rocco, what do you guys think of hearing that? Because you guys, Joanne, Rocco, you guys have not heard any of these EVPs. I've not shared any of these with you guys yet.
No, I haven't, but I will definitely go online and listen to it. I just, you really can't hear it that well through the phone. But just by listening to what they're saying, it's, like I said, it's like a conversation. Like if they were in the room with you and you were setting up and they're watching you do this, setting up, it's like a funny skit, and then you're walking away and they're saying this. It's like they're not out to scare us. They weren't out to do anything, but just to sit and just look like they wanted, like you were saying, like they wanted to be amused. They wanted to see what we were going to do. Mm-hmm. And it looked like they were just going to sit there, fold hands, and like they're talking to one another, saying, what's going to happen? What is he doing?
I mean, it totally
validates
the feelings that we had about being watched. It really does.
I've got 2 more audio clips from here, but I'm not sure if they're going to be easily heard again through Blog Talk. The next one that I have from Casemate 11, while we were in there conducting our investigation, we're all in this location in Casemate 11, and at one point I hear rocks moving or a rock being, I'm not sure if it's being thrown or if it's being moved. There were a bunch of rocks, big stone pieces, regular rocks, all around the perimeter of this casemate inside. And at one point I hear this because I'm in the far back area of Casemate 11, and all 3 of you were sort of in that front area where the stairs that lead out, excuse me, the stairs that lead out to outside. And so when I heard this noise while we were there during the investigation, you guys didn't hear it, and I actually questioned it during this audio clip. You'll hear it. But I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear this, the rock being moved or thrown or whatever, so I'm going to play it anyway. It's about 28 seconds long. So here we go.
Can you come and walk in this room and talk to us? What was that?
What did you hear?
Like rocks rustling.
What?
Like rocks rustling.
And here it over here.
All right, I'm not going to play that one again. I'm going to put this all on.
That I heard very well, Anthony.
Okay.
Was that actually the noise that was coming from the left side of you, where you had the hole right there?
No. It was when I heard it. It was towards the right side of me, along the wall there, on the ground. And I'm not sure again if it was just these pieces that were moved. Again, I don't know. I'm not claiming that this is any evidence or of paranormal or anything like that. I'm just saying that this is some noise that I had heard. I physically did not see anything move. So it could have been just settling of a rock that was on the floor, or it could have been something that was moved or slightly thrown or whatever. I just can't make it out. I'm not sure what it was. But I wanted to show everybody and put this out there because it was something that I had indicated, because I know I did not hit any rocks with my feet. You guys were in front of me. I did not see you guys because I was holding my camera. So I'm not sure what it was. And it wasn't the water dripping, as I mentioned earlier, because that made another slight sound, but it was not as distinguishable as this. It felt hard. It felt like a hard substance. Or not felt. It hurt. It sounded like a hard substance.
You know, when you post that...
You're actually standing still. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I need to listen to that again, because I hear a voice over that, which I never noticed before. I hear a voice, like a sound or a voice. Very, very faint, but like at the top, almost like it sounds like it's at the top.
All right, I'll send it to you.
And it's not us.
I'll send it to you, and if you want to see if you can hear it or clean it up a little bit, maybe you can. All right, and then the third and final one from Casemate 11. This is when, Lucy, you were getting religious in here, and you were asking if any of the spirits pray or if they believed in God. And I believe after you asked the spirits, do you pray, again, you may not be able to hear it on here because I just tried to listen to it right before we went on air, and for some reason, again, on Blog Talk, you can't hear it as well. But you hear, right after you say, do you pray, I hear, it's on my computer, I hear a faint, quick yes, but you're not going to be able to hear it on here. I already know that. But you may be able to hear after you do say, do you pray, and directly right before you ask the question, do you believe in God, right before that, you hear what I believe is a male voice. It may have been saying something in the very beginning, but all I hear is testing. And so from what I'm gathering, it may be that the spirit is trying to say they're testing us, or they're testing to see if we're religious or we believe in God, or if there is a God, or something like that of that nature. You heard this, Lucy. What do you think?
You know what? I was basing the question on the feelings that I was getting, and the fact that, if William had been in there, of course, the first thing whenever we go to a location, I always like to find out about what their connection with the higher power is. And what I was getting in Casemate 11 was a sense of loneliness, a sense of despair. So that was the first thing that I asked, and I heard it, and I don't know, it just gave me a sense of I was happy. I was happy to hear that.
All right. So, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I'm going to play this clip. This is from, again, Casemate 11. You're going to hear Lucy say, "Do you pray?" I think there's maybe 3 or 4 seconds of silence. And then you're going to hear I've actually amped up the volume in the section where I want you to listen to the voice. And it's, again, directly right before you ask the question, do you believe in God? And from what I believe, this spirit is saying something about testing or it's testing us. So take a listen.
Do you pray?
I hate Blog Talk Audio. Let me play this one more. Let me play this one more time.
Do you pray? Do you believe in God?
There's something there. There is a male voice. I can guarantee you that. I'm just not sure if it's saying testing or something else. Not sure if you guys out there are listening to this can heard it, but I'm going to put this on a clip, and so hopefully that you'll be able to hear it a lot better. Did you want to mention anything more on that, Lucy?
No. I think the clip pretty much answers the question. I mean, definitely what I got from this is that whatever's in Casemate 11 is intelligent. It's not residual. I mean, they responded to us.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to move on to the arsenal. Now, from what Lorraine had mentioned to us, the arsenal is not notoriously known to have any paranormal experiences in, but she did mention that people have gone in there. I'm not sure, mediums or psychics or whoever has gone in there, or maybe just regular paranormal investigators, but what they felt is a lot of sadness, a lot of despair, and so that intrigued me. I know if there's a feeling like that in a space, you know that there are souls there who either are not happy or who do not want to move on, that they are just stuck. And so that intrigued me enough to mention to everybody, Joanne and Rocco and Lucy, that night that maybe we should do a Ouija board session. Now, I just want to say, and I know we mentioned this on our Facebook page, and people have commented that, we should have never have done that, that Ouija board is evil. And Lucy, you can respond, but I'm going to give my response to this. We had, oh my God, what is his name, Lucy?
Robert Murch,
sorry. We had Robert Murch on not too long ago, who is probably like the king of Ouija boards. He knows everything about them. He's collected about 1,000,001 of Ouija boards. And we had a discussion about the Ouija board. And he brought up really good points. And what he did for me was not convince me, but he made me understand that the idea of Ouija boards is nothing new, obviously. It's been around for a very long time. It is nothing sinister, and is nothing different than if you were to bring an EMF detector in a location or an audio recorder. Now, I know people are going to disagree with me, and people are probably going to hate me or think bad of me or us for doing this, but my belief in a Ouija board is a communication tool. It is, to me, the same thing as an audio recorder. You put an audio recorder and you press record, you're opening up a portal to the spirits because it's an invitation. If you capture voices during a rapid EVP session and you play it back and you hear it in the moment, in the location, and then you continue that conversation, that opens up a door. It opens up the door to the spirits just as much as what a Ouija board would do. Now, to me, a Ouija board is a little bit less than an audio recorder, I think, or an EMF detector. It's a piece of cardboard and plastic made by Mattel that is sold in Toys R Us. It is not a witch board. It has not been done with any satanic rituals. It has not been performed in anything that people think is sinister. It is just another tool for communication. Now, I know people have said that they've had stories of horrible things that have happened to them during a Ouija board, and I've heard the stories, but I've also heard stories of people getting attachments on spirits and who have been attacked by spirits, who have been possessed by spirits that have never even touched a Ouija board. So to me, it's not any different. I don't think it's any disrespectful at all. It's just another means and another tool to communicate with the spirits if it's used properly. If it's used in the wrong hands, if it's used for anything sinister, then yes, I think it should not be used. The same thing goes with if you were to use a recorder. If you provoke too much in a communication with spirits, if you demand, if you start to curse, if you start to think of evil things while you're communicating with the spirits, that is wrong as well while using a digital recorder. It's the same as if you were to use a Ouija board in that same manner. It's all how you use it, and it's all how you conduct yourself, and what you're feeling inside is what matters. If you don't open yourself up as much and create that sponge, which I call Lucy, if you don't create yourself as that open sponge, you're able to have that protective shield over you so that nothing can happen. Now, obviously, we don't know all the answers to the afterlife, so anything can happen. You can't fully protect yourself. But I don't want people to condone the use of Ouija boards. This is my personal opinion. I'm not saying that it is, everybody else who doesn't believe in it is wrong. You have your personal thoughts, opinions, comments, and beliefs about the Ouija board, which I respect. But I respect the idea that this Ouija board is nothing different than as if you were to use an EMF detector or an audio recorder. Lucy, go ahead.
I agree 100%. I do have to say I was a bit surprised at the reaction that we got when we posted the pictures that we had used a Ouija board. And I do want to say that I agree with you. After listening to Robert Murch, after doing my research, I honestly believe that it is just another tool that can be used. The stories of the possessions and the evil things coming through, those things can happen to a person regardless if they're using a Ouija board or not. When you go to Paranormal Investigate, protection is key. And if you are not aware of what you're doing, you are opening yourself up to who knows what. Now, in this case, going into the arsenal, Lorraine had mentioned that, there were feelings of sadness. Some people had felt them. I honestly did not feel the sadness that was there. Again, what I was feeling was the sense of amusement, watching us, like, what are they going to do next? So before we even started to use the Ouija board, if I had felt anything that was negative, anything that possibly could have been harmful, I would have said no. I would have said, no, let's not do this. but I didn't feel anything like that. Now, I did joke around, and right before we did it, I asked Archangel Michael to watch over us, but it's, to me, I think it's just another tool. I'm happy that we did it.
To be honest, we didn't even get a reaction from it when we did do it. So, not to say that nothing happens with a Ouija board. It just didn't happen when we had it. I don't want to give that false proclamation that everybody should go out and use a Ouija board. No, I'm not saying that at all. I don't want everybody to use a Ouija board. But I don't want people to think badly of it just because of the history and plus what Hollywood has done to it and what stories have been out there, because bad things happen even when you don't have a Ouija board. I don't know, and I have not heard any stories that Ouija board, the use of the Ouija board has increased to the point where it creates that evilness or that sinisterism within a location or within the person that's actually conducting it, even more so than any other tool that's out there that's being used. You've got folks who don't, again, like I said before, who don't use the Ouija board, that bad things happen. I'm not saying that as an excuse. I don't want to be on a soapbox here trying to profess and say that the Ouija board is the best thing in the world. It's not. I'm not saying it is. But what I'm saying is it's not any different than any other tool that any person has used, but it has to be used properly, and it has to be used with protection.
It has to be used properly, and it is also a personal decision. I don't want anybody to think just because we used it, this is good, you can do that. No, it is definitely a personal decision that you make yourself. If, for us, I felt that we had the protection. I felt it was fine. I was curious. I wanted to see what was going to happen. And as a result of using it, we honestly didn't really get a response.
No, we didn't get a response from the board. A couple other things, though, and we did it for a short period of time in the arsenal. But what we also did in that room also was obviously conduct EVP sessions in there. But I also had my laser grid set up to see if there was any movement in the room. And again, nothing happened there. But we did capture a great EVP in there. And this was captured, I believe, was this on your camera, Lucy, or was this on your audio recorder?
This was from the camera. This was from the video camera.
Okay. So I'm going to play an audio clip, and you're going to hear a lot of chatter, a lot of talking, because basically we weren't truly conducting an EVP session at this point. We were, I think this was shortly after we got into the room, we started to move the table around so that we could sit at the table, and I was setting up the grid, and you're going to hear Rocco talking, and in between all of this, too, and Joanne, this is the point when you were deathly afraid of that bug that was on the ceiling or on the wall that you wanted to
That's the only company we had. That was the only company we had in that room.
There was a huge water bug crawling all over the place on the ceiling and on the wall. And so you're going to hear Joanne saying, you have to kill it, you have to kill it, you have to kill it. And right before that, though, you're going to hear Rocco talking about, I think Rocco was asking, what's up, anybody in this room or anybody here, something to that effect. So you're going to hear a long, breathy voice, very deep. It sounds very deep to me, but a long, breathy, very, very breathy. It's not faint, so much faint, but it's very breathy. And it's a male spirit, very deep male spirit, saying, we're here. And Lucy, you're going to hear it on top of, or Lucy's voice is going to be sort of in the middle of this whole thing, talking, because right before this, Rocco had the K2 meter in his hand, and he was going around, and at one point he caught a whole bunch of lights on the K2 meter, and then it went away. And when Lucy is talking to Rocco and Rocco's talking back, you hear this breathy tone come through that says, we're here. At that same time that you're going to hear that breathy tone, we're here, take a listen to Lucy in the background. You actually hear her say, and to confirm what she's seeing on the K2 meter, because then the K2 meter lit up again. So what that says to me is that the K2 meter has caught whatever spirit, whatever male spirit entity was there, and confirms the fact that he was there, and the EVP that we caught on top of all of that confirms, obviously, that something was in the room with us. So I'm going to play this clip, and it's about 25 seconds long. I'll play it a couple of times, so take a listen.
Can you help right now?
Oh, yeah, it's moving already.
Stop, who's in this room?
Is there somebody here with us? When we weren't paying attention, you... Oh, there you are.
Not killing for it. Tony, kill that?
So right when Lucy says, "Oh, there you are," you can hear an undertone of a male voice saying, "We're here." I'm going to play this one more time.
Can you help right now?
Oh, yeah, it's moving already.
Stop, who's in this room?
Is there somebody here with us? When we weren't paying attention, you... Oh, there you are.
Not killing for it. Tony, kill that?
All right, hopefully everybody was able to hear that. I'm not sure. But what I hear on my computer when I play it back is, "We are here." It's very slow. It's sort of like, "We are here." But at the same time, Lucy is saying, "There you are," because the K2 meter lights were indicating that something was in the vicinity of us.
And he sounds kind of like almost exasperated, like, "We're here." You know, that's what it sounded like to me.
Like he was out of breath.
Yeah, or just like, "Yeah, we're here." You know, I'm telling you, I got it. Just they made me feel like they were amused, they were laughing at us, they were having a good time watching us.
All right, we've got about 33 minutes left in the show, and I want to get to the rest of the areas that we went to. So I'm going to move on from the Arsenal. Nothing else really happened in the Arsenal. Like I said, we conducted some sessions in there and pretty much left that area. After the Arsenal, we went to Casemate 5, or what is known as Casemate 5, but Lorraine corrected that miscommunication. It's actually what is called Casemate 3. I'm not sure why or what that means. But in any case, it's actually really Casemate 3, but on the door it says Casemate 5. During the time that we were in Casemate 5, we did some experiments with some audio clips that Lucy and I put together. Lucy did some research and found that there were German descendants in that area on that land, correct?
Yes. And actually, William Howe spoke broken English. He had a very thick German accent, according to the research.
And I believe, but he's from Ireland, or he's of Irish descent, so I'm not sure what is true and what is false, because I've seen that somewhere written as well. So what we did was we put together some German phrases on audio clips that we played in Casemate 5. We also did some research, and we went further back into the history of the land that is there, further before the Revolutionary War, and we found some interesting Native American, which we always find Native American history.
Of course.
Of course. There's always Native Americans roaming around, because they were here
first.
first.
Everywhere.
I know. So we found out, and we discussed this on air live last week, that the Lenni Lenape Indians pretty much inhabited almost the entire area around the Delaware Water Gap there, and Philadelphia, and even up north, I believe into New York and even parts of Long Island. They were a vast group of people, but they were also mixed with Iroquois and a little bit of Cherokee as well on the land, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I actually found on YouTube actually, there's a Lenape group that performs this Lenape dance I'm not sure what this dance is. It doesn't describe it anywhere on the YouTube video that I found. They just label it as Lenape dance music. And so we played that as well in Casemate 5. I also played some fife and drum music, obviously, for, Revolutionary and Civil War. And then I also played some Civil War battle sounds. Again, this is all just to try and get comfortable with the spirits, so that they hear things that are comfortable to them, or that they hear things that they know are a part of the time that they were there, that they may feel a little bit more comfortable and open up to us a little bit more. And so we played some of these things, and one of them actually striked up what I believe is some sort of interaction. Joanne, you had mentioned that when this was going on that it could have been a bug, and it was when we played the Lenape dance music. There is this distinguishable, it's almost like a rattlesnake sound, correct, Lucy?
It's a rattle. It's definitely a rattle.
Right. So in that music, there's definitely some sort of rattle. I describe it as a rattlesnake, the tail. When you hear that noise, that sort of high-pitched, hissing, baby rattle, whatever, that is part of the Lenape dance music. And after we played that, I think it was a couple seconds after we played that music, we heard that same rattle again in the room in Casemate 5. And then we all heard it and noted it. And Joanne, at one point you had said maybe it is a bug. It's the sound of a bug from the outside, right?
Well, it wasn't inside the casemate. It was actually coming from the holes, from the outside, from the holes through the casemate that's led to the outside, which I think, I don't know if it was, Rocco had mentioned it was a bullfrog, so I don't know if it was the noise from that or it's a totally different animal. I have no idea what that sound was from.
Right.
But it was coming from the outside. It looked like there was like water outside with the grass coming through the water, and like some type of animal was just standing there and making that noise. But it was just weird that it was you heard the noise right after you played that. Like it was continuing making the music.
Right.
Now, one thing I do want to mention that Lorraine had mentioned during the tour, that this casemate 5, has a whole lot of activity. It may be actually the most active part of the whole grounds.
So we played that music. We heard it maybe a couple of seconds after we heard that rattle, and then we all noticed it. We made a note of it. We said, "Did you just hear that?" It sounded just like the music. So it wasn't, an individual still having that reverb in their ear of that music. It was all of us that had actually heard that noise coming from somewhere within the vicinity of Casemate 5. And then as we continued the conversation in Casemate 5, we heard it again. We heard that same noise, and it was actually a short version of that rattle noise. And then that was it. We never heard it ever again after that point.
Mm-hmm.
I never noticed it before. The one thing I did notice, and everybody noticed, that you hear are the bullfrogs that are pretty much directly right outside Casemate 5, right at the moat. And so you hear the bullfrogs constantly. But this rattle point did it twice after we played that music. I have, and I already uploaded it here on Blog Talk, but again, right before I came on Blog Talk on air, I tried to play it on here to see if everything was okay and the volume levels were good, and you really can't hear anything. So I'm not even going to play it, but I'm going to put it again. Like I said before, I'm going to put it all together and put it on our Facebook page so you can hear it. But that was a pretty interesting experience to have happen, and it sort of tells you that it is intelligent spirits that are there because they're reacting to the music. They're actually mimicking the same thing that was being played for them. The other two audio clips that I have from Casemate 5 were sounds that we heard within the room. The first one I'm going to play is, and again, I'm not sure if you can hear it. I didn't listen to this one right before. Let me see if I can find it. It is of the scratching noise. Lucy, did you want to talk about that?
We heard a lot of weird little things in here. One thing I do want to mention, Lorraine had mentioned that in this casemate, there definitely is some presence, and she called it a male presence, that does seem to do most of the activity. According
I think
to her,
it was like a faceless man, right? Or a headless man or a faceless man?
Something like that. And she said that he definitely does not like blonde women. He has a tendency to touch women, so which was part of the reason when we did separate that I wanted me and Joanne to be alone. And I think the scratching noise, we were still all together in that main room.
Mhm. Yeah, we were all in that main casemate 5 room, that big room towards the back end there. And what you were just saying before, when we separated, we separated within casemate 5. We went into different casemates to see if we separated, if we were able to make the spirits feel a little bit more comfortable instead of having 4 people sort of quote unquote attacking them with all these questions. That maybe if we individually went into some of these different casemates, that maybe we can stir up some conversation. But here's the audio clip that I was able to upload. I'm going to play it. I'm not sure if you can actually hear it, but you're going to hear scratching noises. And, Lucy, you described it as scratching on a hard surface.
Mhm.
And so you're going to hear scratching noises, and then you're going to hear us react to it.
I heard footsteps in back of me when I came in.
Is that you scratching?
No, I heard that too outside.
No, it's not me.
All right, I'm not going to play it again, just for time's sake. We've got about 24 minutes left.
Just to add to that, okay, the reason why Anthony's asking if it was me scratching, all during the night I had been getting bit up so much that I was scratching constantly. This was not the sound of my nails scratching on my skin. This was definitely a scratching sound on a hard surface. And the beginning of the clip you hear, as I walked into casemate 5, I was the last one going in, I definitely heard footsteps in back of me. So I knew that there was something there. This scratching sound just happened. It was the only time that I heard it, but we all heard it.
The third and final audio clip that I got from casemate 5 is, Lucy, when you and Joanne actually heard some noise. You're not sure what it was or what it is. On this audio clip, you're going to hear the bullfrogs. You're going to hear these bullfrogs, and I think at one point the bullfrog noise ends, and then the sound happens, and then that's when you both react to it. So let me play this clip for you.
These are my friends. They're good people.
See that noise?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it sounds almost like something moved. Almost sound like papers rustling a little bit, but I'm not sure what that is. What do you guys think?
Well, again, it was something that was loud and clear. I mean, I was the one that was closest to the end of the cave, like I was the one that was by the the holes of the cave there. So I was hearing noises coming from there. So again, I didn't know if it was something with the bullfrogs. I didn't know if that's what we heard or something. But again, nothing I felt inside. I felt it through the holes of the cave, somewhere that something was behind us that way.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I think I need to mention, the casemates, when you go in, I mean, you really don't get a sense of how huge they are inside. Casemate 5 has one big room, but there's also three or four smaller rooms. So at this point, I believe, Joanne, we were alone in one of them. I think we were still in the main one. And Anthony, you and Rocco had gone out into the hallway.
Yes.
Yeah, I was. I kept staying in the hallway because I wanted to see if I can capture anything down the long hallway with the sort of smaller casemates. But there's actually 2 large casemates. You forgot the first one, right in the very entranceway.
Oh yeah.
When you first walk in, then there's 3 smaller ones, and then there's casemate 5 all the way down on the end.
Right.
So, I don't know what this is. We can try and clean it up and listen to it again. I certainly don't think it's a voice, but it may have been some sort of movement of something. And in that room, in Casemate 5, the only thing that is in that room, there's a fireplace there, but the only physical pieces of furniture is maybe a wooden, I guess you can call it like a plywood top and 4 wooden 4x4s or something. And then you've got these wooden frame of I guess they're beds, right, Lucy?
Yeah, they're just slats across. They're beds.
Wood cots. Yeah, we were all sitting on each wood cot.
Right. So.
And you know what? There wasn't any paper. I mean, it sounds like rustling paper, but there really wasn't any paper around there.
No, that's it. That's all that was in there, really, was all of that stuff. And whatever was foreign to that was what we brought in. And the other thing that we brought in was the laptop and our equipment. So it wasn't any paperwork. We didn't have anything with us there. All right, I'm going to move on to... Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to mention when we did separate a little bit, and I was just in one of the rooms with Lucy, we were in a very small one where there was only one peephole, and I was actually just literally facing the peephole and just staring through the hole, and I did see like a little plant or a big weed in the middle of the hole, but as I was staring at it, there was some type of shadow that was going back and forth, and I was showing Lucy if she could see through the hole and see what I was seeing. I don't know if, Lucy, if you had captured the same thing, if something looked like was behind the weed, something was moving.
No, I saw it, but unfortunately my camera didn't pick it up, but it definitely, there's a darkness that covers, because when you're looking down this casemate, you can see the small hole, and I'm assuming that's where they would be shooting guns or something. But you can see the movement of the plant life that's in back of it. What Joanne had, when she called me over there, I caught a dark shadow. And, of course, this is a very small window. I can't tell how big the shadow is. But there's definitely this blackness that covers the plant life. I'm going to say, I mean, I've seen shadows before. This definitely was something that was covering the light that was shining in from that window.
Yes.
All right, so nothing else really happened in Casemate 5, and as you can gather from what we've been talking about so far, that nothing instantly happened nothing dramatically happened, I should say, while we were in any of these locations. Anything that we've caught has been an EVP that was recorded on our audio recorders. But I also wanted to point out that, and I posted this up on our Facebook page, on Paranormal Review Radio, the Facebook page, one of the digital pictures that I have that I caught the other day as I was reviewing them was outside of the barracks. And it seems as though that there is a shadow of some sort or something that is down at the end of this, not hallway because it's outside, I guess it's this landing area with all the columns on the first level of the barracks as we're sitting outside on the bench. And if you want to take a look at it, it's on our Facebook show page. And I indicated, because every time I do take pictures, I take a series of snapshots. So it's not just one picture, and then I move to another area or location and take another picture. I take a series of snapshots just because if you do capture something, you want to see if you're able to see if there's anything right before it or even right after it to either debunk or dismiss or to confirm anything that you may have captured. And I put up two pictures. One was the first picture that I had taken down this hallway, outside hallway area, outside the front of the barracks, and you notice that there's nothing there. And then the second picture, which was probably taken maybe about, I'd say, 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds later, not even, just enough for the first picture to upload onto the front face of the LCD screen, and then for it to go away so that I can take another snapshot. And you notice that there is something at the end of this hall area. People were indicating when I did post this that there's some sort of light orb or light something on the bottom of this black shadow figure. And I'm not sure what that is because it could be a reflection of anything or, a bug. It could be moisture in the air. Who knows? I could have caught the eye of the cat down at the end. But above that, which is sort of chest level and head level, is where I noticed is something that is of a black mass or dark mass, and you can clearly see that it's blocking out one of the far end columns. And I don't know. I'm not putting this up as proof. It could be nothing. It could be anything and everything. But it's something that interested me, and I know Lucy and you guys all have seen it, and I don't know what your opinions are of it.
Well, I have a question. When
Yes.
you snapped this picture, did you know that all four of us was on the bench next to you?
I can't remember because every time we did take a break, I took snapshots like this, and I would take out into the grounds, into the grass grounds. I would face it towards the officers' quarters, which is where the supposed Elizabeth's room is, because we were right outside the barracks area. That's where our home base was. That's where we had our coffee and snacks and stuff. And so when we sat on that bench, I started to take pictures in every direction from where I was seated, and I did that pretty much religiously every time we did because I so desperately wanted to try and see if I can capture something. And I can't tell when this was done because I'm facing to the left. And most of the time you guys, when you came out, you were sitting towards the right of me.
Well, that was the direction of, that's what I was trying to ask you, if that was the direction where we were coming from the bathroom breaks, and would you know if it was one of us walking to you guys and we were holding the flashlight?
No, I don't remember taking any pictures and then you guys showing up.
No? Okay.
No. If anything, Lucy, well, no, you wouldn't have seen it on this picture, but Lucy would have been with me sitting down if you did go to the bathroom. But who knows? It could have been. It could be that. I don't know.
But you did hear those noises that way, coming from that way, which you said it was the shutters of the window, but...
Yeah.
But the light in this picture doesn't look like a flashlight. And, again, this is going down, looking towards where the knocking sound was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to propose that the knocking sound is anything because I truly think it is the wind that did it. But, again, who knows? But if you look at the picture, at least on my computer, it was funny because when I was at work yesterday, I looked at it on my work computer, and for some reason my work computer has it's not as light. The screen is not as light as my laptop is, and so on my home computer, on my work computer, I really couldn't see anything in the picture, but on my laptop, I'm able to see it because I guess my screen is brighter. So if you were to take this picture and lighten it up a bit, you can probably make it out a little bit more, and I may try and do that with this picture to see if I see anything. But if you notice it from where the waist level is and up, which would be the waist, the stomach, the chest, the shoulders, and the head, if you notice it, the color of the waist, the chest, the neck, the head, which I think is sort of an outline, and I think could be an arm, I'm not sure, is all the same color to me. It doesn't seem as though you can make out a shirt and then skin and then excuse me, and then hair. So if it was you, Joanne, or if it was Rocco, that would have been indicated, I think, on here. To me, on this picture, it sort of is almost like a light shade of gray from what I'm looking at right now. It's sort of a light shade of gray, and it's not defined. Like, I can't tell neck, shoulders, arm, or anything like that. I just see a mass. So, again, I'm not sure what it is. I don't want to make anything of it, but it prompted me enough to actually put it out there on our page to see if anybody else could make anything of it, and that's why I did that.
You know, while we got a couple minutes, I do want to ask one question. Joanne, there was one time that me and you did separate, and this was when the guys were setting up. We actually went into the powder casing ourselves. And when we went in there, we didn't take any flashlight. We just had our cameras. We walked in. I want to ask you, Joanne, what did you feel when you went into the powder casing?
Well, that was the first room that we did go in as they were setting up, because I did want to see if I felt anything. And like I said, in the beginning of this, I really felt that I was going to feel something or see something, because it was kind of a little eerie. I was eerie going into it. I did take pictures from my phone, and it was kind of all blurry. Like, it wasn't giving me a good picture. It was giving me like a purplish haze. So then when you tried to take the picture, that's when you were telling me that you've seen something too on your camera.
Yeah, because I got a really weird feeling in that powder casing. I'm not going to claim that it's anything paranormal, but there definitely was something there. And a couple of the pictures that I took, which I've posted on our Facebook page, there's just weird things. Now, it could be the moisture, it could be the light. I'm not going to claim anything paranormal, but the pictures taken from that powder casing are definitely odd.
Yes. Well, we didn't get a chance to investigate in that room, and that was the room that Lorraine had mentioned she never went in it for about 13 years, and until she had it blessed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Adam Bly had come in and they had it cleansed.
She felt the same type of feeling that she just didn't want to go in. She thought somebody was watching her. I don't know if she did see anything. I don't remember her saying anything. But she said that she needed to come out of that place right away.
So, of course, we wanted to go in there.
That was the first one.
So, I mean, the one of the last areas that we went into during the investigation was the Commandant's building, the Commandant's office there. It's pretty dilapidated inside. There really is nothing. It's cautioned off because at parts there's no cement flooring. There's no, it's just dirt ground, basically. And that's where I dressed up as George Washington. I had the George Washington costume, and I recited the letter that George Washington wrote to Congress in regards to Fort Mifflin and the incident that happened there in November of 1777, if I'm correct. That is where Fort Mifflin lost a good amount of soldiers. And this was him reporting about it to Congress and saying that there was going to be an investigation done because, pretty much to sum it all up, somebody wasn't on their watch to make sure that the British were not coming. But in essence, what had happened there basically in the days to come was enough to enable George Washington to sail up the Delaware River and to be able to position his men into a better standing to fight for America, and that is when we won the battle. And it's all due to Fort Mifflin, and that's why they call it the fort that saved America. And so we wanted to pay tribute to that and give them the opportunity to respond and communicate in regards to that. But unfortunately, we didn't get anything live as we were there or anything. I reviewed everything on there on EVP. On audio recording and on video. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get anything. But it was a great experience. I think overall, we had a great time besides the mosquito bites that were killing us. I think we had a great time investigating, and I recommend Fort mifflin to anybody who's willing to go there and investigate. I think it's a great place.
I think
yes, I had a great time. Yeah, it was about 6:30 when we wrapped it up, and I still even wanted to still keep going.
Right.
But I would love to do this again with you guys.
You know what, Joanne, I loved having you guys with us. And that's one thing I want to say. I mean, me and Anthony are so used to investigating by ourselves. It was fun having you guys with us. We've done it with you before. I can't wait till we investigate together again. For anybody out there who has never been to Fort Mifflin, even if you take the paranormal activity out of it, it is well worth going to this location just for the history that is involved with it. When you're stepping on the grounds and you realize what has gone on in this place and the significance it has towards this this country's history. It is an amazing, and it's a trip that you should definitely make. One way or another, you should definitely go there.
All right, Joanne and Rocco, hold on. We're just going to finish up and wrap up the show. So, Lucy, get your sneakers on and run through this part of the show.
Okay, let's go to the Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. And this week, our fan is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It is Edward Philkins Hagen of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Just a couple quick things. He likes the Phillies. He likes Alice Cooper. He likes Motley Crue, Fall Out Boy, The Simpsons, and The Walking Dead. Congratulations, Edward, for being a fan, and thank you so much for listening.
Don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, just like us on Facebook at Paranormal Review Radio.
Okay. I just said it. Fort Mifflin is a location that's full of history. Even without the paranormal occurrences, it is well worth checking out. To walk on the grounds where part of the story of this great country was written was a real honor for us. It was another wonderful and fun trip. And I actually think the spirits had fun with us, too. We want to thank Lorraine Irby and Wayne for making us feel so welcome at Fort Mifflin. Joanne, Rocco, thank you so much for coming with us on this investigation. Having you with us was so much fun, and I love seeing you both, and I can't wait till we do this again. So
Same here. Thank you, Lucy, and thank you
for having us.
No problem. I can't wait till we do this again.
We had a great time. We always do.
Good.
Always.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about our loved ones, okay? When one of our family or friends moves on to the next part of their journey, it's really hard for us to let go sometimes. We do grieve and we worry. You know, will they be okay? Where are they going? You know, we miss them, and we try to communicate with them. We look for answers as to what is really on the other side. Annie Kagan's brother, William Cohen, who is also known as Billy Fingers, woke her up one morning a few weeks after his death. Annie thought she was dreaming. She wasn't. Annie has written a best-selling book called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. Now, in her book, Annie shares what Billy told her about the afterlife. Next Friday night, August 2nd, Annie will be with us to talk about her book and what Billy told her about the other side. Billy's story is amazing, and it's going to give us a real insight into what truly is on the other side. Now, whether or not you believe in the afterlife, you really don't want to miss this show. We want to say thank you to all of you for being with us at Fort Mifflin. Even though it was only on the air, it was like having the best paranormal team ever. Anthony, thank you so much for another perfect trip. Can we leave for the next one right now, please?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Okay, so you know what? My fellow paranormal adventurers, don't stop looking for the answers, and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio.